Hey guys, here is how to do every problem in 36B. This is a study guide review packet for the assessment next class. Okay, what I want you to do is be really careful when you're taking the assessment that you use a highlighter or you underline and you answer the questions. This one says to write an equation of a line. Anytime we write the equation of the line, if it's not specified, it needs to be in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So this is going to pass through the given point and is parallel to the given line. So parallel lines have the same slope. So I look here at my slope is 1. So my parallel line is also going to have a slope of 1. So when I use point slope form, it's y minus 3 is equal to 1 times x minus 2. I then distribute y minus 3 is equal to x minus 2. I add 3 to both sides and I end up with y is equal to x plus 1. So there's my equation of the line that is parallel to this line here, and it would go through that point if I graphed it. Okay, number 2, my slope here is 2/3. So again, my parallel slope would also be 2/3. I use that with point slope form. So it's y plus 2 is equal to 2/3 times x minus 3. I distribute here. I get 2/3 x minus 6/3, so it's minus 2, and then I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, so y is equal to 2/3 x minus 4. Okay, the next two problems, we want to write an equation of the line that passes through the given point and it's perpendicular. So with perpendicular slope, I look here and my slope here is 2. To have a line that's perpendicular, we actually use the negative reciprocal. So this is going to be negative 1/2. Remember, 2 is the same as 2 over 1. So reciprocal, we just flip the numerator and denominator and then we take the negative of it. Be careful to use this new slope with that point here. Okay, so this would become y plus 2 is equal to negative 1/2 times x minus 4. Okay, y plus 2 is equal to negative 1/2 x plus 2. And then when I subtract 2 from both sides, I end up with y is equal to negative 1/2 x. Okay, that's my answer. The next one, my slope here is negative 1/4. So my perpendicular slope would actually be positive 4. Use that with a new point. Y plus 4 is equal to 4 times x minus 3. So we're going to get y plus 4 is equal to 4x minus 12. When I subtract 4 from both sides, I end up with y is equal to 4x minus 16. Okay, moving on to number 5. Determine which of the following lines, if any, are parallel or perpendicular. Okay, so to determine if any of the lines are parallel or perpendicular, we have to determine the slopes. Well, A is pretty easy, so the slope is just 6. B is also easy. The slope is going to be equal to 1/6. C, we're actually going to have to put it in slope-intercept form. Y is equal to negative 6x plus 2. And then our slope will jump out. Our slope is negative 6. Okay, so if you look at the three slopes, none are the same, so none of them are actually going to be parallel. But if you notice, B and C are actually negative reciprocals. So we've got 1/6 and we have negative 6. So we can say that line B is actually perpendicular to line C. Okay, number 6 says, what is the slope of the line parallel? So in order to determine the slope, we need to put it in slope-intercept form. So we're going to set this up, and don't forget, we've got to divide everything by negative 1. So y is equal to 4x minus 16. So now the slope jumps out. There it is. It's just 4. Okay, and parallel would be the same slope. Now we want the slope that's perpendicular. Again, we solve for y. Negative 4y is equal to 2x plus 16. And then we divide everything by negative 4. When we do that, y is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 4. So perpendicular, if my slope is negative 1/2, my perpendicular slope is the negative reciprocal, which would be 2. Okay, moving on to number 8. So when we look at number 8, it says to graph each line and then write the final equation of each line in slope-intercept form. So it's going to be parallel to y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2 through this point. So the first thing I want you to do is graph the line that's given. Okay, so I've got plus 2 is my y-intercept. My slope is negative 1/2. I go down 1 and over 2, or up 1, over 2. There we go. So there's that first line. Okay. All right, now I'm going to actually come up with a line that's parallel to it. So I'm going to keep my same slope because parallel lines have the same slope, and I'm going to use this new point. So y plus 2 is equal to negative 1/2 times x plus 4. And I'm going to distribute y plus 2 is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 2. And then I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. And I end up with y is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 4. Okay, so there's the second equation. When I graph it, I go down to my y-intercept of negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And my slope is negative 1/2, rise 1 and over 2, rise 1 over 2. So it's going to look like this. Notice the lines are parallel. Okay, so number 9, when we do number 9, we have another one that's parallel. Okay, this time it's parallel to x plus 3, so let's graph this one. Okay, and our slope is positive 1. So our line's going to look like this. Okay, and we're going to go through the point negative 4, negative 4. So because it's parallel, our slope is going to be 1, and we're going to use this new point. So y plus 4 is going to be equal to 1 times x plus 4. I will distribute y plus 4 is equal to x plus 4, and then I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and I end up with y is equal to x. And I've had some of you guys ask me, is that an equation? And it is. Your slope is actually 1, and your y-intercept is 0. Okay, so we start, let's do that in red. We start at 0. Okay, whoops, I was doing it. Change to red. Oh, that's not going to work. Okay, and then our slope is 1. So we're just going to do something like this. And if you notice, we've got parallel lines going through the origin. Okay? All right, moving on to number 10. This time we want the perpendicular slope. Okay, it's perpendicular, rather, to y equals 1/3 x minus 2. So we're going to start by graphing this one. Y-intercept is negative 2, and our slope is 1/3. So up, rise 1 and over 3. 1, 2, 3. Or we go down 1 and over 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there's the given line. Okay, we're going through the point negative 2, 4, and it's going to be perpendicular. So our slope here is 1/3. So then our perpendicular slope is actually going to be negative 3. Okay, so we're going to use this point to get the new line. Y minus 4 is equal to negative 3 times x plus 2. We're going to distribute. Y minus 4 is equal to negative 3x minus 6. And then when I add 4 to both sides, I end up with y is equal to negative 3x minus 2. Okay, so when I graph this, all right, my y-intercept is negative 2. My slope is negative 3. Rise 3. 1, 2, 3. Into the left 1. Rise 3. Into the left 1. So when I graph this, I'll get my perpendicular line. Okay, and if you notice, it's going to go through the point negative 2, 4. Okay, next one is perpendicular. Okay, so again, let's see, my slope is 2. My perpendicular slope is going to be negative 1/2. Okay, I'm going to use this point. So y plus 1 is equal to negative 1/2 times x plus 3. I'm going to distribute. Y plus 1 is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 3/2. When I subtract 1 from both sides, I'm actually subtracting 2/2. So I end up with y is equal to negative 1/2 x minus 5/2. Okay, so my first equation, forgot to graph that, but 2x plus 1. So I start at my y-intercept of 1, and my slope is 2. Up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So this is my original, okay, my original line. So I'm going to graph that. Okay, now for this line, I'm going to start at negative 5/2, which is actually negative 2.5. And my slope is negative 1/2. So I'm going to go up 1 to the left 2, up 1 to the left 2. Okay, so when I graph it, it's going to look like this. Okay, and going to be perpendicular. All right, so moving on. Okay, now we're going to have some of these on the assessment as well. So we start in point slope form, should be really easy by this point. Okay, so we're going to take the point and the slope, and we're going to put it in point slope form. Y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x of 1. All right, when we do that, we've got y plus 2 is equal to the slope times x minus 1. Okay, so there's our answer for that first one. To get to slope-intercept form, we're just going to distribute, and we get x minus 1, and then we subtract 2 from both sides, and we end up with y is equal to x minus 3. Okay, that's slope-intercept form. To get it to standard form, so remember slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. All right, standard form, ax plus by is equal to c. So now we're going to subtract x, okay? From both sides, we end up with negative x plus y is equal to a negative 5, okay? Oops, sorry, that is actually a negative 3, isn't it? Yep, I can't read my own writing here. Okay, that's a 3. Okay, so that's equal to negative 3. All right, in order to get rid of the leading negative coefficient, I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 1, and I end up with x minus y is equal to 3. Okay, number 15, point slope form, y minus 6 is equal to 1/2 times x minus 0. All right, there's point slope form. I distribute. Okay, and then I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So, I'm going to add 6 to both sides, and I end up with y is equal to 1/2 x plus 6. Okay, when I bring the 1/2 x to the other side, I end up with negative 1/2 x plus y is equal to 6. And I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2 to get rid of that fraction. So when I do that, I get x minus 2y is equal to negative 12. Okay, so this last one here, we've got our point slope form would be y plus 4 is equal to negative 3/2 times x plus 4. Okay, there we are in point slope form. I'm going to distribute. Y plus 4 is equal to negative 3/2 x. And negative 3/2 times 4 is negative 12/2, so it's minus 6. Okay, and then I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Slope-intercept form, y is equal to negative 3/2 x minus 10. Okay, moving the 3/2 x to the other side, we get 3/2 x plus y is equal to negative 10. And we get rid of that fraction by multiplying both sides by 2. Okay, when we multiply by 2, we end up with 3x plus 2y is equal to negative 20. Okay, remember, standard form, you can't have any fractions in your a, b, or c, or you can't have a leading coefficient a that's negative. Okay, so the next problem's 21. I want you to actually use your graphing calculator, or if you use Desmos, you can go back to the website and learn how to use either one of those on day 35, okay, and make sure you understand that these are your inputs. This is your L1 and this is your L2. Okay, to use your calculator to find the line of best fit, you would put in the values, and then you do it by using your calculator. You hit stat and then edit, and you populate the data. Okay, to find the line of best fit, you're actually going to hit stat and then calculate, and then number 4, okay, which is ln/reg, and you're going to get your A value is going to be equal to 1.6, and your B value is going to be equal to 23. You're going to take those two values, and you're going to put them into slope-intercept form. Y is equal to 1.6x plus 23. So that's your line of best fit. It says find the value of y when x is equal to 100. So all you're going to do is plug in y is equal to 1.6. You're going to let x be 100. So instead of x, you have 100 plus 23. Okay. Follow order of operations. Y is just going to be equal to 183. Okay. Moving on to 22. Okay, you use the table below to gives the number of hours spent studying for a science exam and the final exam grade. Okay, if you look at your study hours, that's your input value, and your grade is your output value, or your Y. So you're going to use the calculator to find the line of best fit. So you're going to put the values in, and when you do that, you're going to get an A is going to be equal to 6.1, and your B is going to be equal to 63.9. So when you write the line of best fit, it would be y is equal to 6.1x plus 63.9. Okay? What grade should someone who studied 6 hours expect? So you're going to let your x be, because your x is actually your study hours, so you're going to let x be equal to 6, and you're going to figure out what their grade is by typing 6.1 times 6 plus 63.9. When you do that, you're going to get y is equal to 100.5. So they're going to have to get over 100. That's okay. All right. And since I'm going to run out of time, I'm actually going to stop here and continue the rest on the next video.